we got the GSC Invitational Winners Finals. I hope you guys are ready, because I am. All right. Elodin underlying. Immediately, we see a 4-y lead, and it's forced into the Raikou from Elodin's end. He goes for a Thunder, and underlying manages to land his second Thunder. The first one missed. In comes the Snorlax. And we do see a 4-y switchback just to get that Toxic, but it misses. Now you always gotta watch out for Flame, but on offense that's not so common, and the reason is because if you have a Lax, you're already at a not so great matchup against, no, that's not true, but you gotta watch out for opposing normal resists and offense. It just, having Flame on offense makes you worse versus offense. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Anyways, it turns out it's just going to go for that Body Slam with Curse. You know, it could be Mono. Gets a Spike off. In comes Rhydon. And yeah, so far so good for the Rhydon. It's not getting too much punishment. And it turns out that it's there's a Mono Tar. Oh! Mono Lax plus Tar with Ice Beam support. And we see a Lovely Kiss from Elodin. Lovely Kiss is more and more common on those Raikou offense teams, or balance teams, or whatever you want to call it. Chloe gets forced out, and so underlying still doesn't manage to establish his spikes. He's already on the defensive there. Eggy doesn't boom. Instead, he decides to paralyze the Raikou and then follow up with the boom. Okay, makes sense for me. Rightio. So the Stun Spore kind of secured that kill, actually. So, yep. Starmie is going to attempt to spin, I would imagine. But look at that. Underlying, very preemptive there. Brings his Lax in on a predicted turn. That actually helps him because he manages to rest off. If Elodin, for any reason, had decided to attack, then that would have been a different story. So Rhydon coming in, and we see a Machamp. All right. Machamp is actually quite threatening. And Rhydon, though, is a tank and going to deal damage. Machamp is a glass cannon. So it doesn't get the second Rock Slide prediction correct. Only deals a bit of chip damage to that T-Tar, but nevertheless, that Ice Beam, while it did threaten out the Dawn the first time, it should also indicate that the T-Tar doesn't have a Surf. So it's interesting in and of itself because you don't think that Tar would run Ice, because Ice kind of overlaps a lot with Rock. So anyways, the Cloyster is going to boom on the incoming Starmie, and that actually opens up things for Machamp, who is faster but can't quite OHKO the Dawn unless he gets a crit. In comes Eggy, so the last Mon on both teams is revealed. They are 4-4, or 4 versus 4. Eggy with the Giga Drain and a Leech Seed. Leech Seed is super annoying, is actually a good move for forcing out switches, not to mention that this Snorlax is Body Slam and not Double Edge. So that could come in quite handy because it means you're allowed to go toe-to-toe with it without risking as much. And Body Slam does, though, have that benefit of the paralysis, as we see Rhydon fully paras. And this game is going quite fast, but I actually paid a lot of attention to this match the first time I looked at it, and Machamp over-predicts with an Hidden Power Ghost. Gets one cross chop without a crit, but a full para. And that just goes to show you the glory that is paralysis. So, Eggy, though, taking advantage, probably predicts a Tar switch in, clicks Leech Seed there on the turn that Lax is going to go to sleep. And that really helps out the Snorlax. He's going to go for a Psychic. And Lax is Sleep Talk Curse. So it's Mono. Mono with, I can only imagine, is Pursuit support. Forretress is going to come in. So that's the normal resist that is left, that is still standing. And I got to say, I like Elodin's team, but we'll comment on that later. Tar comes in on the explosion. All right. Well-timed boom well-timed boom switch. And the lax goes down to a, to a speed tie. I'm not used to this fast pace, but this set is long, and there is a critical hit. This is really tossing and turning in so many different directions. Tar would need a crit for underlying to win, or a couple of full paras, but no. Elodin sealing it out. But damn, did underlying make him work for it. This is one intense winners finals. I'll give it that much. All right, on to game 2. If Elodin wins, he will be moving straight to the grand finals. Okay, so we see a stall team from underlying this time, as it goes for Toxic. That's going to help. Raikou coming in right there. And okay, so Skarmory comes in on the lax. Gonna probably get another Toxic off. Yeah. And this Toxic, there's already 2 targets that are Toxic, and that at least helps. It assists with a Snorlax switch as it puts things on a timer. There's a Cloyster coming in here. It's probably going to get a Spike up, and that is also Toxic. Wow. Okay, and Cloy misses too. Gets hit twice and Toxic and misses. All right, but now it's so low that it could just essentially boom. It doesn't really have much else it can do. In comes the Misdreavus. Just, I would say, perfectly timed, but, things went so well that it was kind of obvious, so that the Cloy was going to die. And no disrespect, of course, but still good on him to have all these mons put on a timer like that. And Raikou with the T-Bolt. In comes Fori. It's going to be able to either spin or spike. I would probably go for the spike. Yeah, spike first. It's not a pursuit team, so the Fori could have HP Ghost. But underlying instead, he kind of elected, I'm a little behind, he kind of chose to go to Raikou on the guard, which is something interesting. Skarmory has Drill Peck, as well as Toxic. Okay. Okay, then. Raikou. Raikou got crit from that Thunder there. We do see a Steelix. So Elodin could put in some work with that Steelix. With phasing, cursing, setting up. But we do see a Kingdra. That's a bulky water. That's actually going to be very important in this matchup. Because it's bulky. I don't think it's quite bulky enough. It might live an explosion. Zapdos is going to rest off its HP. Okay. So I like this because if we saw the Toxic on the Snorlax, that must mean that it's Toxic Flame. Okay, and the Hidden Power Ghost prediction. Okay. Elodin explodes on the incoming Raikou switch. That might assist him in the matchup there, but he's also not going to have spikes in the long run. Kingdra gets forced out. Kingdra virtually has no weakness because Dragon type sucks in Gen 2. And that's its only real weakness. Fairy type doesn't exist, so it's not weak. But the most important thing is that it's not weak to electric. Misdreavus goes for a Toxic. So we've seen, what? 3 different Toxic Pokemon? This Snorlax is Toxic, I can only assume Flame. And I kind of like it because Toxic Flame is somewhat a relic of the past. It hadn't been used so much because of the acceleration of offense, but I feel like Kingdra really patches out the threats of mixed attackers and just ground types, so you can kind of run Toxic Flame. And the Fori did manage to spin away that spike permanently, so that's going to make Steelix a lot less threatening. We're going to see how this is going to play out, because it's going to come down to either Kingdra... Oh, okay. I was just saying it was either going to come down to Steelix setting up until it could eventually boom and Oko whatever, or Kingdra taking it out. But instead there's a third option, which is Haze. Okay. Now, Kingdra can take a Thunder, but I like that Underlying isn't choosing to stay in, because the Kingdra is really important for that Steelix and that Tar. So he's just going to let Snorlax take the hit instead. And we do see Elodin's Snorlax has Earthquake, as it goes for a double edge as well through the Sleep Talk. So it's not really going to be able to touch this Skarmory. I think Underlying has this matchup locked in. We didn't really see a Pursuit. We don't know about this Tar. But I would assume it's offensive, not Pursuit. Especially given the Earthquake lacks. Surf gets a crit on the Zap. And we do see a Flamethrower from Underlying's Lax. Unfortunately for Elodin, he curses on the turn that he gets hit. Might have been a good time there to actually go to Tar, but he instead curses. Okay, he can't quite live a Surf at that range. I don't think. Skarmory. Yeah, that's the thing about Kingdra. It has a bit mediocre stats, but those mediocre stats actually benefit a lot from GSC's EVs. So all around, it's good enough to tank a lot of hits, which is the type of build you want, not a specialized build. Sometimes you want the all-arounder for mixed attackers. Not that we're seeing many in this particular game, but it's nice to understand the philosophy behind it. All right, so Snorlax is putting in some work here, pretty much, along with that spike. And we might be down to another speed tie yet again, just because of how the offense had played out. Elodin decides to switch out. I don't know when he'll be able to rest that Lax back up, perhaps against Missy? But what's baiting in the Missy? So, Lax is going to catch some Z's here. Unfortunately, we don't have any fun names. Licks. I'm just going to click Roar as Misdreavus comes in, but I think it barely lives the Earthquake. I could be wrong. I don't have quite all of my brain calcs. Skarm, Fori. Fori can't really do much to the Licks. It's not HP Fire. It's HP Ghost. But again, I feel like he's more than prepared for Licks. And it's all thanks to this Dragon. The only Dragon type in OU. We don't have any Ments. We don't have... Well, actually, there is D-Knight. I forgot. I forgot about D-Knight. All right. My bad. Skarmory is doing less than half of lefties to this Steelix. But Kingdra can just come in and, just click Haze. Elodin didn't click Earthquake. He could have clicked a preemptive Earthquake to really stick it to underlying, but he doesn't, and the Lix was forced out. And Lix has already used 8 curses, which is a lot for a Steelix. Like, I don't think the objective is reaching max stats, but it's to deal as much punishment as possible. And he sort of missed that window. Flame is almost certainly going to kill the Lix. But nope, he just booms. Okay. Nice switch from underlying. He goes for the mid-ground play of using Skarm. Skarm is faster, but underlying knows that the Tar has Fire Blast. So he goes to Kingdra. It's not that he knows, it's that we know the meta, we know how people play. You gotta scout for everything, folks. And now there are either Pokemon that are weak to normal or hate toxic. So it looks like underlying has this second game in the bag. It's just a matter of time. I need a coffee. And a beauty sleep. Speaking of rest and beauty, there's Miss Drevis with that rocking that necklace. Just did her hair up, and we see it's the Toxic T-Bolt. Hence why we haven't really seen it come in on Lix earlier, because it can't touch it at all. Not that that matters. Underlying is going to put in a lot of work with this Lax. And as something else goes down, there is the Toxic. This T-Tar is... What's the expression I'm looking for? It's terminal. That's a bit grim. I was going to use something a little lighter, but... Yeah, I was going to say life support. There is our T-Tar. Never managed to cash in that retirement plan. And Kingdra is the insurance company. Not paying its share. Typical. But you guys don't know. I'm in a good mood because I got paid today, so we all got paid. Both of these players are going to get paid, whether they win or not. It might not be much, but still. In fact, this year's prize pool is lower than last year's. But it's the thought that counts. It's the games and it's the commitment. It's the innovations that we're seeing. And yeah, you know, we see a lot of different sets depending on which player you have in front of you. Underlying is a very calculated and thought out kind of player. He'll bring offense, but he's just as likely to bring stall. Elodin is more of an offense guy. He'll mix it up, right? He might bring triple normal resist like in this game, or in the other game, he might bring some other team. And this Foray is hanging in there. And the reason why is because the Skarmory is really low. It's at 17, so it can't come in on a double edge. But if the Foray dies, then Skarmory can rest up. So Elodin is trying to find an opening. This is the tit for tat. It's like, oh, you do this and I'll do that. And I know you'll do that, so I'm going to adapt and do this, and so on and so forth. So they know, and they're kind of just one-upping each other, right? Like, here's proof, right? Skarmory is in double-edge range. Hence why the Fori was simply staying in, even though it has HP Ghost, and the Lax has Flamethrower. So you would think that... No, wait. No, it has Earthquake. My bad. But either way, it can kill the Fori. But Elodin doesn't want that. Elodin wants the Skarm gone. If he kills the Fori, Skarm comes in and it rests. So... And as long as the Skarm is low, Elodin can capitalize and hurt other Mons. In comes the Tar, and the Tar's going to want to make a move here. Alright, goes for the Rock Slide. But you see, Underlying switched out in this case because if he brought in Skarm there, Tar would have clicked Fire Blast on the rest turn. So he wants to cash in that Skarmory rest, that delicious, delicious rest. Tar is down, so there isn't really much Elodin can do at this point. Elodin has 2 Thunders left and 4 Sleep Talks left on his Lax. He takes down the Fori. All right. In comes Skarm, and it's going to get that sweet, sweet rest. Except it's not, because Elodin forfeits. You see? It's all about the game state, folks. All right, game 3. Whoever wins moves to Grands. We see Stunspore lead Eggy. Paralyzing the Skarm, we do see a repeat of Toxic this time. Eggy teams are usually very susceptible to Toxic, so Elodin's going to have to watch out for that. And he's going to need something like that Rhydon we saw in Game 1 that can really capitalize off Paralysis. Especially Skarm. And it's not going to be the Lax, I don't think, unless it's... Oh, there's a Thunder. All right. Yeah, he's packing the right kind of team with Lovely Kiss. Jeez. Crunch Tar. Lovely Kiss stays in. Okay. Interesting to stay in. Now both normal resists are crippled, but we do see a Tentacruel. Tentacruel is going to spin away those spikes. Doesn't give a shit about Cloyster. Zapdos gets a para. There is a lot of paralysis being spread here, despite the Zapdos not even being T-Wave. In comes the Cruel. And the hard part is that you can't just boom on the Tentacruel like you might want to do against Starmie, because it has Protect, as we see right here. Wow, I should have put these games on fast sooner. We're at the third game and it's only been 20 minutes. Zapdos. We saw an over 100 turn game. Lax. This is going to be very difficult. Depending on what Elodin has, this could be very tricky. Okay, so it's not quite the Zoguru team. It's a Spikeless team with Tentacruel as the sole spinner. But that actually is going to make things very difficult because Heracross is very threatening to Eggy teams. Especially those with Seismic Toss. Yeah, the Stun Spore happens, but it doesn't connect. And Tar's going to switch in. Skarm, so there's a double and a triple switch. Scouting for that 4th move. We didn't see the Giga Drain the first time, but we did see the HP Fire. In comes Marowak. All right. Swords Dance. Okay, Elodin going for broke here. All right. Clicks Rock Slide. But I don't know if this is really going to help him. With the Marowak so low, he might have wanted that actually to break. But he just doesn't have a good switch into that Hera, it would appear. Besides maybe Zap. Marowak goes down. We do see a Pursuit on the way out. Maybe something can happen, but it's Pursuit Tar. Pursuit Tar doesn't look like it's going to break. Something like an EQ Fire Tar, something with special moves, that would be the kind of Tar you need for this matchup. Tentacruel is just going to be Tentacruel. AKA amazing. Not giving two shits about the Cloyster. Mocking it. You used to be a big threat. It's immune to Toxic. Doesn't take a lot of damage from Surf. And has a Protect to Blank Explosions. It really just no-diffs the Cloy. Raikou. Gonna get some T-Bolt damage on that Lax. It's gonna be a bit of a slow game, considering the fact that Heracross is down and Underlying doesn't really have a that many different Pokemon. He doesn't have spikes, right? So there's the crunch from the Tar. So I would assume it's Mono Lax, as in most teams. And Tar gets put to sleep again. Forgot to take his nighttime pills. Okay. This Tar, on the other hand, is going to click Roar. It's ferocious. And this might have been the turn he needed. He does get the right Pursuit call. That's going to be very important in this matchup, because the Lax can break through. Elodin's Lax is threatening. It is parried, but it is threatening. Roar. So it's hardly, it's hardly a one-sided matchup. There's a lot going on. And the Skarm goes down. Okay, so Underlying is hard-pressed now to set up with his Lax. But what's he going to do? Click Rest? Yeah, he is. Doesn't want to get phased with a low Lax. He's going to have to figure it out from here, what it is that'll do. Okay, Lax this thing in. If it clicks Sleep Talk, it could still flinch. Protect. Means he's going to be able to use it again if he wants to. Doesn't do that, he goes to Raikou. Lax. And that rock damage is pretty decent. We've seen about 13 rock slides. He only has 2 left. He needs a flinch right now. And no. He doesn't get it. But Zapdos does get a para. And he still has 2 booms. And a numbers advantage. Despite the T-Tar having 1 PP left. This is really, really intense. I can only imagine the nerves of these 2 players right now. Thunder missing twice. Elodin didn't quite manage to spread as much para as he would have liked, but maybe losing the Marowak wasn't quite the play here. Snorlax is going to switch out. and come right back in and go right back out. Just for that lefties. As we see again, another switch. Hidden power ice. All right. And Zapdos rests. Okay, so far, so good. Hard to say who wins. I feel like underlying is slightly favored here. Tar getting a pursuit again. Fly doesn't even want to deal with that. Doesn't want any of that smoke. Elodin is having a hard time finding a way to make progress here. As the Tar manages to phase out the lax. Okay, so we're seeing a lot of thunders being thrown. You know, thunder. Eggy. Oh no, it switches out. Okay. Yeah, due to the crunch, I get it. But it was paralyzed. 8 thunders, 9 thunders. Sorry. You didn't miss much. People clicking pursuit just to click pursuit at this point on the Tar switch out. And having no spin blocker means Elodin can't even pressure with spikes. Marowak is gone. Okay, well, I'm not really sure what else to say here. We got some... This last part isn't quite as riveting as I had hoped. And excuse the silence, you know? But... okay, we're finally seeing some set... Never mind. I said we're finally seeing some... Alright. Crunch doesn't get anything. Lovely Kiss again. This is the 3rd time the Tar gets put to sleep here. Externally. And that's like 10, I'm pretty sure, thunders. 11. Oh, no, 15. This is the last thunder. Boom! But you killed the wall breaker, and now you don't have the thing to break the wall. Or to take advantage, rather. But Eggy is threatening now, so Eggy's on the board. Eggy is now in the picture. So it looks like a new path. Also 2 booms. You know, you have 2 booms. I suppose you could. Okay, underlying sets up here. That actually makes it so that the Cloister doesn't want to explode. So he manages to weather the storm ever so slightly, kind of threaten away the, get rid of the threat of booming. And this is actually kind of interesting, this boom offense plus Marowak team. We're going to have to see. Zapdos getting a para would actually be huge in this matchup. He wants to be able to set off one boom. Does this T-Tar have any other move aside from Rock Slide and Pursuit? No. That is our answer, I think. I mean, what is Elodin trying to do? We know it's Hidden Power Ice Raikou. And Raiku's a little bit bulkier on the special side than Zapdos is. Zapdos is a little bit more bulkier on the physical side and has good typing for physical attackers. Tentacruel. All right. We might as well see a boom come off. Oh dear. I'm gonna need a few minute break. Sorry, I needed a break. Here we are, we're back. So as we see here, what's his name? Elodin gets crit, but he has 2 booms. He's gonna boom here. Okay, that kind of puts him in a bad spot because the T-Tar is out of Rock Slide PP. Otherwise it would have been good for him, but it's not. And he doesn't really have much leverage. The boom could come in handy, but at the same time, Tentacruel just really blocks Cloyster. It really doesn't let it do anything. So, and as we're also noticing, T-Tar still hasn't revealed his 4th move, which can only indicate that it must be Fire Blast, because if he had Earthquake, he would be in a great spot right now. But he's not clicking it, so I wouldn't wait. I wouldn't stall any longer, right? I wouldn't wait any longer to reveal the weapon, but he doesn't have it. T-Tar gets parried. Zapdos is low. This is looking really bad. Pursuit is not going to cut it. It's not going to help. And there's a full parry, so this T-Tar is pretty much dead now. Yep, there it is. And Zapdos might die soon as well. Might hang in there. We'll see. It barely survives. And it's going to want to not waste all of its PP. It didn't click Sleep Talk there. If it had, it might have had a shot. But it didn't. Didn't click Sleep Talk. There's 10 left. It was the one turn, the one opening he had. There's nothing's going to come of this. Raikou's going to deny Cloy with T-Bolt. Protect is just going to block Cloy. And he goes for a Spike. Could have boomed there, but that wouldn't have helped him. That wouldn't have helped him. What he would need is a para. But Cloyster comes in and, oh dear, gets killed on the switch. Yeah, no, there's no way Zap is going to make it through the both of them. It's already hard to do 1v1 the Raikou, but 2v1ing is it's just impossible. Especially if it's Protect Senta. Now the Zapdos has 3 Thunders left. It's curtains.
Yeah, Elodin forfeits. Really valiant effort. I don't agree with the Marowak play, but you know, when so much is on the line, you get nervous. You don't know what's gonna happen, so he might have had a chance. Congrats to Underlying for making it for the second time to the grand finals. And only one other player has done that before, and that's Hyogo Fodex. Maybe he can follow in his steps and win. We'll see. But he will be on the winner's side facing the upcoming challenger. Elodin still has another shot in the losers' finals. I hope that you guys have enjoyed.